welcome to Business and Finance here on Echo Television International. Now, we will be looking at deeply into what the federal government is planning to do and how it plans on going about settling its deficit. We know very well that we are having a fiscal deficit of about 9 trillion naira, and we're looking at how the budget office is planning on going about this deficit, looking at how they will be using the Nigerian market and revenue generated within the country to be able to fix the deficit even before the next budget, and then for the years ahead, 2024 down to 2026. But then before we go deeply into what the budget office is planning to do concerning the deficit in the country, we will be looking at how the dollar against the naira keeps soaring high. We are seeing that the naira is now 1,190 as against the dollar. Now the free fall continues, and we are seeing that this is affecting the price of every other commodity in the country. And recently we are seeing that even jet fuel have gone as high as 985 naira per liter, which is making the average cost of flight, domestic flight, not even the international flight, as high as 100,000 naira. Now, as of Friday at the parallel market, we are having trading commencing at 1,175 naira to a dollar, and it closed at 1,190, just leaving a little of 10 naira for it to reach 1,200 naira. That is at the exchange market. Now, if we remember 2 weeks earlier or even last week, we still had the dollar at 1,125. It barely got to 1,150. Now this increase is going on weeks on week, and then it doesn't look like the free fall is about to stop. Now we see that it however appreciated slightly in the investor and exporter forex window after it sold at 808 naira to a dollar at the close of trading on Friday, from 810 naira to a dollar on Tuesday. Now these are all figures we are attaining from the FMDQ. Now the naira has continued to maintain devaluation following the CBN order to the lending institution to allow the free fall of the country's exchange rate in June, where we were seeing that the Central Bank of Nigeria was going for unification, therefore making a halt for the bureau de change, that is the black market, the parallel market, which is the unofficial market, and then making the official market for the currency exchange to be the investors and exporter window. Now, a few months later, barely 2 months into this process of unification, there was a welcoming back of bureau de change. We're looking at the parallel, the unofficial market, or the black market as we know it. In as much as there were a lot of conditions given to it, we have seen that the free fall has continued massively in the bureau de change, that is the parallel market, and we are seeing it going as high as 1,190 naira to a dollar, while it remains at 810 naira at the investors and exchange window, which is the current official exchange window in the country. Now, if we can remember, before the floating of the naira, we have the official market at 471 naira to a dollar. That was the official market before it was open to the INE window, or before the together with the parallel market at that time. It was as high as 765 naira to a dollar in the parallel market, and then in the official market it was closing it at 471 naira 0.67 kobo. Now this was what we had attained before the floating of the currency. Now that haven't been the case. We have the president, the Association of Bureau de Change Operators of Nigeria, said achieving stable, strong and variable exchange rate in Nigeria will require full participation of bureau de change in the retail segment of the foreign exchange market. So we are seeing that bureau de change operators are asking for more. They are asking to be a part of the retail segment of the foreign exchange, that let them not only be in the business of exchanging, though, we see that the dollar availability have affected their exchange, and that is why we are seeing it going this high. So they want to be able to be part of the retail segment, asking for more. And we know that for the unification process to work as it should be in the country, we're not even supposed to have the parallel market existing, but for some reason, for better reasons, we see that the CBN have decided to bring back the barrier to change, in as much as they are not giving them full access to exchange as it is. Now we are seeing they are asking for the kind of access they didn't have, or they are limited to now, for it to be able to, for them to see a better, maybe for the Naira to be able to gain some value at their own level, and then the free fall shouldn't continue weeks on weeks as they are experiencing it at the moment. Now also, fuel pump price keeps going high. We've heard marketers complaining over the week concerning the forex scarcity, therefore making some depot to close and even some fuel station to close. Now we are seeing that in some northern states in the country, fuel pump price is as high as 680 naira per liter. That is in the far north part of the country. We are seeing fuel pump price going that high, and in some states we're having about 650, and in some are able to manage it at 630 naira to a liter. And same is going for the jet fuel, as I have earlier mentioned, that we are seeing the average cost of domestic flight going as high as 100,000 naira. That is the average, not even for longer distance, but for short distance we are seeing the average going for 100,000 naira. Now we are talking about subsidy, and today we will be focusing not on subsidy removal for petrol but for electricity. At the beginning of the year, mostly down to the second quarter of the year, we saw where this caused NERC are talking about hike in tariff price, and then the federal government kept on asking them to halt, in as much as the federal government has said we are not going to be paying subsidy anymore for tariff. Now this caused NERC said there is no way there won't be a tariff hike without subsidy. So that the government come in and continue paying the subsidy, or tariff hike of over 40% was inevitable. Now we are seeing that for the second quarter of the year, we are seeing that it is back for the second quarter of the year. That is subsidy, and it has hit a high of 135.2 billion naira. Now, from the previous 36 billion naira that was paid in the first quarter of the year. Now, this is contradicting what the past administrations say, that they have removed subsidy, but we are seeing that it is back now, and it have gone really high compared to what was attained in the past. Now, according to the new quarterly report by the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, the 135.2 billion naira recorded in the second quarter of 2023 was an increase of 99.21 billion naira, or a 275% compared to the previous quarter of 36 billion naira. So we're seeing where the federal government is spending more on electricity subsidy. In the first quarter, it was 36 billion, and I believe that they came to a conclusion and an understanding with the NERC, discuss, and every other player in supplying of electricity in the country. And we see that now, instead of the 40% tariff hike that every Nigerian was going to feel the blow in their pocket, we are seeing that the federal government have decided to step in and have paid 99.21 billion naira for electricity subsidy, compared to the first quarter of 36 billion naira. Now we are seeing that banks' credit to the economy have risen to 46.38%. Now this credit to the bank is the amount of credit available to a business or individual from a banking institution in the forms of loans. Bank credit, therefore, is the total amount of money a person or business can borrow from a bank or other financial institution. So we are seeing that the bank's credit are increasing to the economy. It means the government, individual businesses have more over 46% to what was previously available to be able to go to the bank and have access to this money. So be it businesses, be it individuals, be it state government, be it every form of government or organizations, we are seeing that what the banks have available for you to access have increased by 46%. Now let's look at the numbers where we can see that financial institutes' credit to the economy have jumped to 29.38 trillion naira or 46% to 92.72 trillion naira in September. Now this is way above compared to the previous year where we have 63.34 trillion naira of the year 2022. So for the year 2022, we were at 63 trillion naira, and for the year 2023, we're at 92 trillion naira. So this is a jump, and this is a report coming from the Central Bank of Nigeria. Now, we are looking at this money index according to the money and credit statistics for the year that is for September 2023, released by the Apex Bank. We're looking at a month-on-month net domestic credit growing by 2.24 trillion naira or 2.48% to 92.72 trillion naira in from September, and then in August is 90.47 trillion naira. So we are seeing that banks are having more credit, more availability, but we are seeing that banks have also been complaining that borrowing has gone less, of course, due to interest rate, due to inflation. We have small businesses closing in, therefore have no need to access. We are seeing that the borrowing is coming more from state government and even the federal government itself and other organizations. But for individuals and small businesses, there have been a low borrowing from the bank despite the increase in the credit available for the economy and every other person that want to access these loans from the bank. Now, to how the federal government is planning to settle the deficit of the economy. Now, they are targeting domestic funds, and we need to know where these funds are coming from and how will the federal government go about a 9 trillion naira deficit. Now, we're seeing that the federal government have relied heavily on Eurobonds and other sources, including bilateral from the World Bank and International Monetary Fund. It's deficit financing needs for several years now, and we have seen that borrowing to pay a borrowed debt haven't helped because we keep seeing an increase in our deficit. Now, the federal government 2023 deficit amounting to 11.6 trillion naira is being funded with just 31% domestic borrowing, while the bulk of the deficit funding at 68.1% was raised from foreign borrowing. So we are just borrowing 68% is coming from borrowed funds to settle our deficit. So in a way, we're not going out of deficit as long as we keep borrowing, because these are loans, these are not funds, these are not grants, these are loans from the World Bank and then the IMF. Now, in the MTEF, the MTEF is the medium-term expenditure framework and fiscal strategy paper for the year 2024 to 2026, released by the government, indicated that over 66% or about 6.0 trillion naira of the total deficit amounting to 9.05 trillion in 2024 will be raised from the domestic market. Now, this is coming from the budget office. Now, this is their estimate or their plan for the year 2024 to 2026. Now, the question is, how much does domestic market make yearly in the country? Now, we have to look at what we export, and of course, we know that the majority of our export is oil products. We are looking at the crude oil. Now, we can't neglect the fact that oil price have been going down. Oil revenue have been going down. However, let's look at the focus from 2021 and what is obtainable for last year and what will be obtainable for this year. Now, in 2021, we made 57.7 billion naira in export, and 41.8 billion naira was for oil export. That is the crude oil, our Bonny Light crude oil. Now, we're left with only $15.9 billion for non-oil export and revenue. That is just about 11 trillion naira. Now, what is the current deficit? We're looking at 9 trillion naira for deficit, and then we are looking at just for the first quarter of 2023, the Debt Management Office have spent over 1.2 trillion naira only in debt servicing, and this will keep increasing because what was paid in the first quarter went high, and what will be paid in the second quarter will definitely be higher than this. And then for the country that we are making just about 11 trillion, and that is the statistic for the year 2023, it means that even if the federal government is deciding to go with the domestic market and what we make, we will still be at a deficit because we are looking at an income or revenue that comes majorly from oil production, and we are seeing that oil production have gone low. We are not meeting our monthly quota by OPEC, and therefore the revenue that have been generated due to oil production has gone high. Now, these are estimates for 2021. We're looking at 2022. We are seeing that we are not meeting what we are supposed to meet when it comes to oil exportation. And then we are looking at many manufacturers closing in within the country. We are looking at some of the raw materials that were into production, we are no longer doing it. And then we are looking at that recently there have been 43 ban lifted on products. Therefore, our importation is going to increase. Now, with 1.2 trillion naira going to debt servicing, and we're having 9 trillion naira as deficit, there is no how our domestic market will be able to pay off this deficit now, except if the government is planning and doing whatever it takes to make sure that no business closes in this country, no manufacturer is closing up and going, that our export will definitely go above what we are doing right now, and we will stop importing many other goods so that we will be able to have a balance of trade. And of course, we have to boost oil revenue, because despite the oil price per barrel going high for OPEC and every other country that is into exporting oil, we're seeing that our revenue is going low because we are not still producing what we are expected to produce. Now, as long as oil is the majority of our revenue that have been generated in the country, then we have a long way to go concerning our deficit, and we are still on a borrowing spree. We still have loans coming from the World Bank. We still have loans to be able to finance our proposed budget and even the supplementary budget and all of that. So on every level, we are running on deficit, but I believe that the government of Nigeria knows exactly what it's doing. It knows the things to put in place, the modalities to put in place, that the domestic market will be able to grow to the level in which it will not only balance the deficit, but will be able to give some balance in the country and also give us a surplus. And this is how far I'll go today on Business on Finance. Thank you for watching. Keep a date with me next time.